Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the number one way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
Welcome to the world of Saluna. Spears and Spears is a mature TTRPG experience made for adults by adults. Some themes may not be for all viewers. Content warnings will be listed in the written episode description. Welcome, one and all, to another episode of Spears and Spears, World of Saluna. This is the final episode of Breaking Scales, the Godkiller First Edition mini-series here on this podcast. Epilogue, the beginning of the end. The last plunge, the first step. The Heart's Divide is where this little chapter begins. As Emery smiles, she looks at Caesis and goes, "Wow, haven't seen you here in a really long time."
I thought I'd make my appearance. It's good to be back, for a time being at least.
Yeah, I like the new look. Well, I do warn you, the past 15 or so years have been hard with everything going on. We've come to love the jurors as our own, and you know, when you make beings, they tend to gain a soul of their own, which obviously you know, as you allow them to pass on. But I'm sure she'll love to see you. I'm sure you can give her some guidance in the grief she feels. But this way, the portal's opening right about now to get into the realm.
I walk towards the portal.
And Emery is with you, and she smiles as she walks through, and you see a beautiful realm of, it's not too bright, it's not too dark, it's the best way to describe seeing this realm is balanced. It is in perfect harmony with itself. And Emery smiles and goes, "This way." She's up in the castle. In a blink, you are at the front doors of this castle. Big silver doors that creak open as you enter a main foyer. And on the stairs you find a young goddess. And for those that may not remember, it's been a little bit, if you wouldn't mind describing Harmonia for us as she sits on these steps.
Before Caesis and Emery sits a young goddess. She has skin that at the tips of her hands and her feet are scaled like that of a dragon and fade up to a blackish color before fading to a gray. Along her shoulders and on her cheekbones are scales as well. She has piercing blue eyes that, for those who know her, can see that she's been crying for some time. But for those who don't, they seem bright and seem to carry a sense of knowledge and understanding that is beyond the years you would place her at. Her figure is that of much like her mother's. She is curvaceous, but she fills it out well as she is tall. Her hands and her feet are clawed, matching the scales that adorn them, and you see a tail behind her. She has black hair that falls around her shoulders, long, slightly curling, and atop of her head is 2 horns that come almost together and break out. She sits before you on the stairs, getting up as you enter, wearing a black dress, much more casual than you've seen her in some time, but she is feeling a way that she has never felt before, and part of herself cannot be brought to wear such fine things when the fine things she once adored have now been taken.
Harmonia, you're looking quite lovely, darling. Been a while since I've seen you last.
It's been quite too long, Caesis. I am so happy to see you.
Caesis looks down at Emery and goes, "Thank you, Emery, that'll be all." And they look at Harmonia and go, "Now, come here." And they kind of go, they walk up to her and kind of wipe her, just gently kind of wipe the tears from her face and go, "It's natural to cry, but come, let's go for a walk, shall we?"
And as Caesis wipes away the tears, Harmonia's head just leans into their touch, and the tears begin to fall.
"Oh, no, not like this."
She clears her throat and moves away, trying to wipe them away before they can be noticed. She shakes her head. She's like, it's hard to stay balanced when this is happening, but
Weighing on you.
in a way I've never understood.
Well, do you have a garden?
To the garden, please. It looks
Right.
beautiful outside.
I've always found that answers come when you're in a garden. And they start walking towards the garden. And as we're walking, they go, "Have my siblings ever told you about our ascension?"
As they're walking, Harmonia links her arm with Caesis, kind of holding on to them for support, but at the same time, in a way, a wordless way, asking for comfort.
They 100%, link arms, kind of like holding your arm with her, holding her arm with her as they're walking, and kind of being the pillar that she needs at this time.
And you see a slight smile appear as this happens. But as she thinks on the ascension, searching her memories, she shakes her head. "No, I don't believe they have. I've only really heard of my parents and those who came after."
Well, it makes sense that the first ascension was never recorded. There was nobody there to record it, so it was only stuck with us. And well, here's the thing that they don't tell you about the ascension is the loss that comes with it. And all of my siblings lost things. We all had to lose things in order to be where we are. I was married once. I still am, technically. Want to know where she is?
Yes.
And Caesis kind of moves away part of his robe, still holding on to Harmonia's arm. And you see this, you just see their chest for a second, but then you see this very dimly glowing rainbow light that kind of comes from where their heart is. And he goes, "That there is my wife. We got married right before I ascended. She was the one that gave herself up that I could ascend. Still have the ring too. It looks great." And still linked into the arm, he kind of holds out the ring that's around their finger. "I only was technically ever physically married one night. It was great. We were married under a beautiful, beautiful moonlit night by lake. Our dear friend officiated the wedding, and then she was gone. Part of me forever. Her name was Nemaya. I still think about her all the time." And I think at this point they kind of get out to the garden and they kind of look at the beautiful life that's all around, the flowers blooming for a little bit, and then looks to Harmonia and goes, "It's not supposed to be easy, this feeling that you're feeling. It's supposed to be hard."
During the story, as Caesis tells of their love and the loss, you see Harmonia think her mind trying to process that kind of love, that kind of sacrifice. And I think you see her smile a little. And I think she nods, her eyes still wet with tears, says, I understand that with everything there is a balance. To love is to lose. To live is to die. No one thing is good. No one thing is bad. I know that. I'm aware of that. But part of me wishes it could be easier, even though we'll grow.
Just because you're aware of it doesn't make it any easier.
This has been a true example of that. You know, I never had a life before this. Never experienced the world. The way you, your siblings, those of the Ascension. I came to be here, gifted, what everyone else lost to gain. Part of me wishes I could know. Part of me knows that if I did, then could I truly be balanced? Losing
Quite honestly, Mike. Mm-hmm.
No, please. Caesis, you don't have to apologize. I want to know your thoughts.
Quite honestly, my dear, that's not an answer that I can give you. That is simply something that you must come to terms with. There will never really truly be true balance until you experience both. Love is integral, like you said, but so is loss. Loss spiritually, physically, mentally.
Yes.
Life and grief, death and resurrection. They all go hand in hand, and sometimes, and they kind of walk up and kind of look at one of the flowers, kind of like puts it in their hand, kind of looks at it and goes, sometimes you can't have one without the other. And if the scale is tipped one way, find a way to tip the scale back. Just because you're out of balance in the moment doesn't really mean that you're going to be like that forever.
You're right. Part of me wonders.
I know to be that way.
Well, I have come to you for most advice, haven't I?
I am the most straightforward out of the four siblings, but I mean, that's going to go straight to my head if you continue to tell me that. And I will let you until the end of time.
Of course. I just don't tell Nuna, is all I ask, because she wouldn't take too kindly to that. But I think I knew that. In making the jurors, I don't think I found the right balance in them. I think I took what I knew of what they were supposed to be. What I thought they were supposed to be, but as in all things, nature, life, it balances it out. So I believe to truly get the balance that we all seek, balance that is needed
You
for
see
me
my
to...
dog?
Yes?
No, go on.
In a long-winded way, I was just trying to say, perhaps it was the things they represent. Say it was time for me to find a better way to keep the balance.
Caesis takes a long pause as he takes all of this in from this younger goddess, and he goes, you see, my dear, that's the first thing you learn when you become a god. No matter if you went through the ascension or you just came to be out of a pure necessity, you're never going to be always right. But you did what you thought was right, and that's all you can do. If you tried to make everything to your bloody perfection, you tried to make everything perfect as you seem fit, then there would be nothing in the universe, because there would never be anything truly to our image. Only what we can deem as what our image is. Now, I have it, I think, quite easy compared to my siblings. My sister's more the one creating life. I'm the one more seeing it to the end. So, but you did what you thought was right in the moment. That's all that anybody could ever ask for.
It was, and I don't regret making them more, having them be what they were. Though, I do question if they were happy in the end. If I could have done something.
That's where you're wrong. You, as their creator, as their mother and father, did everything that you could to give them a good life. But thinking and sitting on the what-ifs and the would-have or should-have or could-have, Harmonia, you will eat yourself alive. And it will kill you far before death will reach you. And quite honestly, my dear, you are the last person I want to see walking through my gates.
Well, you will see me walk through your gates, but alive. Because I do enjoy our afternoons together. That...
As do I, Mike.
But I know you're right. And I know you, the others, have done so much to protect my heart. And I loved them.
Of course. They were yours.
Though some of them, they were a little... They were more odd than I hoped they would be.
They were most certainly... And they paused for a second. They're like, and they're really thinking about the words. They go, eccentric. They were most certainly eccentric. That's the word for it. Eccentric.
Yes, and that was not my first intent with them, no, but even in the madness, restlessness, whatever else became of them, I'm glad they existed.
But of course, you made them. You should be proud of your work. And, put it this way, it shows that maybe, down, you are a little bit human. You love, and you feel, and you be, and you exist, you cry, you laugh. What makes you you?
She nods, his hair blinking a few times. You see she's smiling during all of this, and she nods. Mortal emotions are such a strange thing.
Oh, they're so stupid. They are incredibly dumb, but completely natural.
And I would even go as far to say they're...
I am millennia upon millennia old. If you need to swear, I give you permission to swear.
They're fucking intense.
You see Caesis start to wipe a dramatic fake tear, and like, I never thought I would see the day.
For you, always.
They're kind of trying to dab their fake tears. They're like, they are, but I think that's what makes humans that bloody special.
That
They allow themselves to feel.
they do. Not all of them, which is a concern, but
Caesis kind of goes a little no. You see, that is where I do disagree with you, darling. Some of them don't intrinsically allow themselves to feel, but at the end of the day, they do feel, whether they like to admit it or not. The human body, I've seen, at least, tends to be a pressure pot of sorts. Keep all those emotions in for so long, eventually, at some point, it will explode, one way or another.
that's, I think, the best way to say how I've been feeling for so long.
And that's another piece of being a god, is that you're feeling everything all the time, and it's exhausting, but that is okay. To feel is to be a person. Not necessarily human, but a being, a deity, a form. You take up space in that form, and sometimes the feelings are what make the form. And it's okay to feel the feelings. Caesis picks out one of the flowers and kind of turns and looks at you and kind of just sticks the flower right into a piece of your hair and goes, the only direction to go is forward. Go forward and feel.
She laughs as you place it in her hair. She nods at that and says, I quite like forward. You know, life is never as simple as forward.
Sometimes there's backwards.
Or upside down, or topsy-turvy, or everything
Left,
I felt for the
right.
last... Yes, everything I felt for the last, 10, 15 years with all this. You know, I knew I couldn't step in. There are things that are meant to be that are just meant to be. I think those who face them are better for it, or I hope they are anyway.
You know, my sister and I never really got along. Hell, we fought more than anything. The only time we actually got along was right before the Ascension. But there is one thing my sister taught me, Nuna, actually, is that you can never be blinded by looking at the bright side of life. And sometimes it's what you need to do. And I'm not saying don't repress your sad feelings. That's wildly unhealthy. Wildly unhealthy. Don't be like Zeldris, who compressed it all down.
Oh, yeah.
But
That would make a lot of sense. It also explained the spell of his realm.
they roll their eyes. I'm telling you, the barbecue smell is atrocious. It's like
It's
barbecue and sweat.
It's worse. And then you add in the smoke from the phyllo weed, and if you ever ask why I don't visit, it's not the smell. And she kind of nudges Caesis as she says that.
Oh no, definitely not the smell. You're just so busy maintaining the balance of the universe.
Right. And now it's all on me while I don't have jurors. But, that is...
It's not all on you. You've got the people that prove themselves to be far more capable than your jurors. No offense, they were quite lovely. They served the purpose that they need. Oh, darling, they were your first draft.
But maybe you can tell me, because, well, I feel like you'll be more honest, but Nuna created a lot of life. Did she ever make a few first tries?
When I tell you that half of her bloody room was full of first tries, oh!
How many of them are still walking?
You see them kind of stare into space for a second as they're really thinking. You know that island off the coast of Malverne? Not Malverne, which one is it? You can see them thinking, it's there's an island on one of the continents. She's really embarrassed about it, but didn't have the gumption to kill them all. So
would that be off of and you see her thinking, because she may, well, not only am I sure Nuna encouraged her to learn all as she could about the world in which they lovingly take care of, but also just to kind of toot her own horn, wanted to make sure she knew the world, as all family members like to do. I think Ceremonia is just kind of finally was it off of Filicide? I know there's some weird creatures I don't quite understand why exist down there. Would that be it?
And you see them point to her, and she's yeah, no, that's my sister's island of first drafts.
I see, and I almost feel like it'd be more merciful just to send them to your realm to use as deterrents.
I did take a few as pest control, but I don't really want to have to keep the upkeep of chimeras running all over my realm. I quite like having, less four-legged creatures around. The better. I do have a couple for pest control, but anything past that, nah.
I understand. That's why
the humans can catalogue and discover and write it all down for all I care. It's not my problem.
It gives them something to do. I truly am feeling better. But I need to know. Did you give them a peaceful ending?
I did my best.
Though there are a few I wouldn't say don't deserve it, but there are a few that, I don't know, in their grief or just because of what they represent, were not exactly good.
Well, you said it yourself. For every good thing, there always must be a balance. But that doesn't mean they don't deserve a dignified death. That's my job at the end of the day. No matter who you are or what you've done, I'll at least make the walk somewhat pleasant.
Well, I can't speak for all the souls, but you've made mine very pleasant.
You flatter, but I appreciate that nonetheless.
What? I mean, you're one of my favorite relatives.
You're just paid to say that.
I am not paid at all.
But I am glad to see a little smile on that face.
I'm grateful to have it. It feels nice to smile. You aren't the only one who tried, but out of everyone, especially knowing what you lost, I think you understand it best.
I do. You see, when Nemaya had to give herself over, she was so willing. I pitched a fit. I really did. Wasn't fair. Wasn't fair that I had my first chance at love and happiness and hell, a ticket out of that bloody realm, constantly overseen by my piece of shit father. And it was so fleeting, and I was so angry. So angry. I was full of despair. And I knew that the Ascension wasn't about this new beginning. It was a fresh end. That we would be losing everything in order to gain what we have now. They look at their dark blue shimmering skin. And they kind of brush back their jet black hair. They go, I used to have really long white hair down to my bloody hips. I do miss my white hair. For this jet black shag.
Can't, not to overstep, but can't you change it?
And ruin my already solidified image? I don't think so. Maybe I'll grow it out. Maybe
There
I will
you
grow it
are.
out.
You know, you
Gosh.
you could always do like my mother once did. Nuna had blessed her with white tips. You could always try that.
And copy my sister with her whole frosted tips phase. No, thank you. But
Too bad she bestowed it upon my mother unwillingly.
but your mother pulls it off. That's what counts. My sister.
Yes, but
What I'm trying to say. Oh, go on.
no, I was just gonna say I don't blame my mother for going all white when she ascended. That was smart. Just saying.
Very smart. But what I'm trying to say is that it's okay to be angry in the moment. It's okay to feel sad and angry and despair. It's alright to feel those things. But just know that this isn't necessarily the end. It's just a new beginning. And it gives you a chance to try again. Because sure, I may be the god of death and loss and the night and shadow, but in death, there is rebirth. And in rebirth, there is everything in between. So instead of looking at the darkness of the tunnel, look to the light. And know that there is a new start ahead.
You see her contemplate for a moment, and then she says, you know, I like that much better than what Nuna says.
Oh, and what did my sister say to you?
You quoted it earlier. Look for the bright side of life. Yours is much more realistic. For every dawn, there is a sunset. And for every sunset, there is a dawn. For every storm, there is a sun that breaks through. But the clouds will always come back.
And a rainbow that always follows.
I quite like that part, despite how colorless my attire seems to be. I love colors. I love the sky. And I love being able to experience these colorful emotions.
And that's what makes you you. See, I too, before my ascension, I wore nothing but dark blacks and blues and purples, and when I met her, I had finally seen color. She was this gorgeous, gorgeous rainbow dragon. Oh, both her human form and her dragon form were just stunning. She was able to go see the worlds upon worlds. Her hoard was this weapons chamber. My halberd, when you see me wielding around when I have to make, appearances, that was hers. She gave that to me. And Caesis kind of, with like a fluid motion of their wrist, kind of in the, like, right up in front of them, they kind of formulate this image of a woman with dark skin, dark curly brown hair, in this like very long, almost Lord of the Rings elven type dress that's in like various colors, like rainbow, almost opalescent colors. Not a day that goes by where I don't think about her. She is why I am still standing here today, because if I let myself be consumed in my grief, I don't think there would be a god of loss. She's always with me, but there are many days where I wish she was with me. Not in the heart, but in physical form. But for you, Harmonia, you still have that chance. You're young-ish. Go out and see the world. Being locked here all the bloody time. To be lonely, doesn't it?
It is. Don't get me wrong. I love the company you and everyone else gives me, but in order to bring balance to the world, how can I bring anything to the world if I do not understand the world? And I wonder, are we limited to just this world, or are we able to reach a little further, like your dragon, and see what Maya saw, other places? further.
And they smile at you with this, knowing look. Caesis is one of the 4 pillars, the 4 beginnings. They look young, but they give you this look that just shows that they are so very old. They go, well, dear, I think you, deep down, and kind of point at your heart, go, I think you know the answer to that question. I, for one, can't necessarily extend my reach that far. I am technically tasked with being here, because I helped create this, I have to stay. But that doesn't mean that you can't, as long as it doesn't get out of hand, and then I have to step in with my 4 siblings, and it turns into a whole ordeal, and trial by fire or whatever. I don't see what's the harm in trying.
You know, I will always come home, but to honor a loved one that I only get to know in memory, and that I would have adored, not just because. And she lifts up her hand and kind of looks at the... She knows she's a strange amalgamation of genetics. And Miles says, like her, I carry dragon in me, so I think we would have gone along very, very well.
She would have loved you.
And I her. But in her memory, maybe I should see more. For her, for me, for you. Oh, the stories I could bring back. And at this point, she has stepped away, and she holds her arms out a little more dramatically than you've seen since taking this role. A role that she was born into, essentially, but was not fully given until she was old enough to handle it. You see a glimpse of what hides behind her balance. Not necessarily a mask, but much like the scales of justice that she sits upon, she too has her ups and downs. And through the low, you begin to see the high as she looks up to the sky. You know, I was so blinded by what I felt. I never thought what it could be for me, for my jurors, for the world below, even the god killers. I can only wonder what will become of them. And I do not hate them. None of them. They had their reasons for what they've done. I only wish them peace and joy. Who knows, maybe one day I can meet them.
Caesis walks up next to you and goes, that's the thing they don't tell you about grief. Is that there's a balance, sir, to grief. You know what that is?
Not quite, no.
It's forgiveness. And I think that, right there, is the first step to heal. Because I think, without you knowing, is that you, by creating the drawers, created a balance that they needed down there. For the little people run. For every drawer, there's a god killer. And without the god killer, the drawers would run free. And without the drawers, the god killers would have no purpose. So I think you created exactly what they needed at just the right time. And that's what we do as gods. We create things at the exact right time that they need. So at the end of the day, we serve those people down there.
That we do.
Even if we don't, everything has a reason, Harmonia. Even gods can't see it.
Yes, fate, which I'm glad is better left to Delilah, because I don't think I have the heart for that. That is...
Against Delilah. She's very sweet, and I know she has a lot on her plate, but I don't think fate is the right word for this. I think it's more chance. A randomization of possible scenarios, and it was one that was just picked out of a bloody platter of opportunity.
It is. I'm glad it was bestowed upon me. Despite how I may be feeling, I am glad.
Shows that you still feel. That's the one thing that I've seen all you godlings and ascensions lose. That's the first thing you lose, is your ability to feel. Now that you assumed some higher position, you suddenly aren't allowed to feel. That's a crock of shit. I mean, I can't talk, because I was a celestial being born into it and ascended, but I never lost my ability to feel. And look at that. And they kind of like gesture to you. And neither of you?
Well, a lot more alike in that way, I suppose. I'm grateful for it. You know, I have a lot to think about, a lot to see. But maybe this time, because there needs to be a jury. That I feel is right, but I don't believe I need to be the one who makes it. I believe I need to find it.
What's that saying the humans say? Back to the drawing board?
Drawing board. Possibly.
Well,
possibly. I have done
but
a
for
lot
now.
of reading. Yes. My mother would know. She's very attuned with knowledge. Between all of this, so she raises her hands and kind of motions towards herself, knowing she does not look how she normally looks. Because I have not thought about giving myself a chance to indulge in such things. I have wallowed a little too long, though I thank you for airing me out, as some would say.
Sometimes, all that you need is somebody to open up the curtains and let the light in. However, when I feel sad, which is surprisingly not as often as you think, I like a good cup of tea. Come. I am making you a cup of tea. And, they hold their arm out for you again.
She happily takes it and looks up at them and says, "Can we please have some biscuits to go with it? I have been dying for some of the biscuits you had last time."
Of course. I'm going to be so transparent. And as they start, walking back into the castle, he goes, I 100% stole those from Zeldris' realm. And I intend to steal them again.
Good.
And, with this air of, dead serious face.
Good. I think he could do with a little less. He has too much food, cooks too often. Not enough to share with, Maybe if he aired his realm out ever so often, maybe he could have more visitors and not let them go to waste.
That you and I can agree on.
Yes, and maybe it would humble our friends and family a little more if we did a little bit more stealing. And she has this very mischievous grin on her face, there's something she's been eyeing somewhere that she's not going to say out loud, but she really wants her hands on.
That is going to be for another time, then. Because I am quite curious as to what you're planning.
I'll tell you over tea.
Over tea.
Over tea.
And as you two walk back into the castle, having small little jokes between the two of you, stealing biscuits from Zeldris' realm and sipping a calm cup of tea with those that come to join you later on as they all understand the pain you're going through. One by one, they make their way there, and soon it is a small celebration with all 30 of our Pantheon's members. And that is where we will end our epilogue, the chapter after the final chapter of Breaking the Scales. What will come of our jurors and the future of balance in Saluna? Who knows? But fate may have a story it wants to tell. Thank you all for joining us. I have been your lovely DM who just sat back and allowed a conversation, Derek, as always. Well, not always, because CJ has DM'd on this now, and so has Nikki. But as most of the time, I appreciate every single one of you listening, and I appreciate Mar and Mick being our wonderful conversationalists in this epilogue, in a beautiful story of grief and acceptance. Also, about this time, I believe we will have our Patreon out for those that would like to subscribe and get special content up from the podcast. And you may find our wonderful guest star Mick Wherever they tell you can find
You can
them
find
at
me
this moment.
at Radicalslinky on all the social medias that I want you to find.
Yes, and this will not be the last time you see Mick at our table on our podcast or anything involving us, because we absolutely adore Mick and we'll always have a seat here for them. And with that, I
Until next
bid
time.
you adieu.
Next time, friends.
Yeah, until next time. And keep pushing forward with heresy and breaking gender norms and all the other norms that need to be broken, because we're here, we're queer, and we can let out a little bit of cheer to drink a beer. Whatever, I'm rhyming and I need to stop. But goodbye, everybody. Yes. Thank you so much for listening to the latest episode of Queers and Spears. Your support and feedback mean the world to us, and we love you all so much. Don't forget to rate, comment, or leave a review wherever you listen to your podcast, and you may get the chance to receive a shout out on a later episode. Follow us at Queers and Spears on most social media, except for Instagram, where you can find us at Queers and Spears. We can't wait to have you all back for future episodes, which air every Friday at 12:30 p.m. EST. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you all next week. Bye.
Bye, friends.